All right. And good evening. It's 7 o'clock, and boy, that's loud. I'm turning down. Let me try that. How's that in the back? Still sounds loud. All right. How are we doing?
Better.
I can only go down so far. All right. Well, good evening. Welcome to the September 5th Township Committee meeting, regular session of the Township Committee. We have our entire committee with us tonight, including Mr. Hickey for his first full meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and Ms. Sullivan, can we get the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Yes, sir. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was sent to the Courier News in Somerville and the Burnesville News in Whippany. To all subscribers, posted here at the Municipal Building as of January 9th, 2017.
I'll invite you all to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have two sets of meeting minutes to review. The regular meeting and the executive session for August 21st. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
Just had one typo that I apologize, I would have noted it earlier, but page 2, interview of candidates under Renee, concerns.
Oh, okay, yeah. Telling you.
That's
okay. Other comments or questions?
What's
I'm sorry, Judy. Second page, under the interview of candidates under Renee,
right?
third line, Mayor Parker asked her to asked her top 2 concerns.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions? If not, I'll take a motion.
There's just one other,
Oh, yes?
the Paul Bell comments.
Yeah.
There's a couple of typos in that sentence. You got an public with an 8, and then right underneath there, I'm not sure what that is.
2.
You're right, to the Sewer Authority.
Okay, I'm typing a little fast. Okay, impact of the project on the Sewer Authority.
And then go up to, you saw the public one, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Can I get a motion?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
We only have one list for the permits and raffles. I am still feeding back. Trying to turn this all the way down. One permit, an off-premise 50/50 for the Friends of the Jacobus Vanderveer House for the benefit of Bedminster Charities Fall Fest, October 14th, 2017, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., 3055 River Road. Any comments or questions? If not, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Now, if we don't blow ourselves out here on the microphones, we invite any member of the public that wishes to be heard to come up to the microphone up there at the podium, state your name, your address, and provide us some comments.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Committee. My name is Rob Walden. I'm the area manager for Jersey Central Power and Light, 52 Chatham Road in the city of Summit. And as I just said, I'm your new area manager, replacing Jack Espinoza, who is covering on an interim basis for John Anderson, who's been promoted to VP of Operations. So I'm your guy.
Congratulations to her and welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. I spent 20 years prior to JCP&L as a mechanical engineer and sales engineer. I've been with the company for 3 years. I've covered Far Hills, Bedminster, Bernardsville, Bernards Township, Peak Gladstone, so I know the area a little bit. Before that, I was also a mayor and councilman in my hometown, and I'm a county freeholder in Hunterdon County.
Which town?
Hampton Borough.
Oh, okay.
So I've been on your side of the dais. I know what it's like to have the power out and sit screaming at you and to scream at JCP&L. I've done that myself from time to time. So.
Well, I can only hope that if Irma heads north, you guys are ready.
We will be prepared, that's for sure. We've definitely learned our lesson, and preparation is key. Maybe a little over-prepared at times. We've had several storms that have not materialized, and we've always been over-prepared for those, so that's not a bad thing. And two quick things to update you on. One, the PSI program, which is our training program for future linemen that we do with RVCC. There'll be an open house on October 8th. Again, we usually hire about 40 of those kids every year to go through the program. The company pays for the tuition, the books, the equipment. It's a 2-year degree, and then they become linemen to work for JCP&L or one of our other utilities. It's always a good opportunity for kids who aren't looking for a college degree necessarily, but definitely want to trade. And also, we are, I feel like I'm going back to my sales days, we have a special offer from Nissan in partnership with JCP&L. We are offering $10,000 off a Nissan Leaf. That is the electrical car that Nissan sells. All JCP&L customers just walk into a dealer, show them your bill, and you can get 10 grand off the cost of the car. The cars are about 30 grand a piece. There's tax incentives from the federal government, I think about 7,500 in tax credits. So you can get yourself a new car for a very reasonable price, all thanks to your electric company.
All right, thank you.
With that, I'm always happy to answer questions or concerns.
Do you have business cards you could hand out?
I do. I can, yes.
Great.
That's it? That's easy. I can.
Yeah, that's
That's
it.
it.
All right. Well, we'll see after the next one.
Okay, fair enough.
There's a storm coming tonight, thunderstorms, I think, and hopefully it won't be too bad.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
Yes, we've been watching. We got crews held over, so we'll be ready.
All right, very good.
All right. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Any other members of the public? And if not, I will certainly, for the folks that can only see this way, recognize that Mayor Bob Lloyd is in the audience, and we're happy that you're with us, Bob, and hoping you're doing well, and glad to see you. So we will have another public comment session at the very end. We will go to monthly subcommittee chair reports, and we'll start with Mr. Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. I don't have any updates from last meeting. I hope to have updates next meeting.
Mr. Hickey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only update is the Master Plan Reexamination Committee has been collecting data and input from all the different committees and commissions in Bedminster. It's been a slow month given the vacations in August, but we hope to resume our activities this week and next, and we'll start to provide some feedback back to the committee.
Terrific. Ms. Jacobs?
It's a reminder that on Thursday, the Land Use Board is hosting Walter Lane and from Somerset County Planning Department on the presentation of the Priority Growth Investment Area Study for the AT&T campus and expanded to include the 206 corridor. So I know that just about everyone has reached out to the different subcommittees to invite them, to invite the public to hear the presentation, and some of it may be incorporated into revisions to the master plan. It's up to Land Use Board.
It is noticed as a
As a
special
public
meeting for the
meeting, right.
Township Committee if you wish to attend.
So,
Right, and thank you for that reminder, because Judy did take the initiative to notice it so that we could all be in attendance from the TC perspective. So it is a Land Use Board meeting, but it would also be noticed as a TC meeting as well. Environmental Commission has a meeting tomorrow, Moth Night for, do you have the date?
22nd at 7:30 p.m.
20 at River Road Park, and there'll be some other presentations at the EC meeting on Wednesday as well. And I'll report back at the next meeting, or unless Colin does as well. That's it.
all right,
Thank you. I have no updates since the last meeting, Mayor.
all right, very good. And I don't really have anything. Welcome back from the summer, and things will really get heated up as the weeks come along. Minister's report, Ms. Sullivan.
A couple things. We had our first website upgrade kickoff meeting last Thursday. Small group, myself and LaShawn, our IT person, and Robin Ray, to just kind of go over all the ins and outs of the things we need to make some decisions on. We have 12 templates that we're looking at as potential options to go with. I'd be happy to share that with anybody if they'd like to look at them as well. We will be having meetings starting in 2 weeks every Thursday at 2, to just go over where we are, and anyone is welcome to participate either by phone or in person for those meetings. So, the anticipated go live date is the first week of December, if all goes well. So, yeah.
All right.
Bedminster Charities, as you may know, is October 14th. The exciting news is that we have different committees within our group. Jacobus Vanderveer and Center for Contemporary Art took on marketing, and they secured permission from both DOT and JCP&L to hang a large banner across Main Street. So that's a first. And Mr. Walton, who has left us, but he happened to walk in the day we needed a sign-off by JCP&L, so he was very instrumental in helping us get that done. So you will see that probably about 30 days out. I'm going to skip my next item. There is an outreach from the employees. We have a basket that the employees have put together collecting items for Hurricane Harvey victims. We have blankets and non-perishables and pajamas and things we're putting together as employees. We were wondering if we could put it on our Facebook page and website to invite the public to
Sure.
donate as well. The employees are donating whatever postage costs will be to send them. We've reached out to the Austin Disaster Relief Network, who will accept UPS packages and distribute the donations for us. So, with your permission, we'd like to kind of get it out there to the residents if they'd like to participate. There's also a letter from New Jersey Conservation Foundation. They have a grant application that they need support from Bedminster Township. They supplied a letter, I think, that we circulated around. I think Mr. Jacobs and the mayor have seen it. If you'd like to see it, I have a copy for the draft. It might even be in your book, I believe, behind my report. Beth Davison will be here later on another matter, but she was hoping to potentially get that letter of support that she can include with her application that is due later this week. And lastly, we have an outreach from a local business in town letting us know that the biannual sidewalk sale for the fall is actually during Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So the business owner was wondering if it could be moved to another weekend, and is really asking that going forward the township take a look at the ordinance and see if we can word it some way so that it doesn't conflict with these dates. Maybe we make it another time, or I don't know what the answer might be.
Well, I have a bigger question for the five of us up here, and that is that obviously this was set up at some point so that there would only be certain days that you could have these sidewalk sales, and I guess I understand that, but why does the government need to set that up? Meaning, why should we determine what those days are? Shouldn't the merchants come up with it? Now, maybe we can only say you can have 5 days in the spring and 5 days in the fall, but why are we setting up those days and deciding on it when it's the merchants that want the sale?
Do these days require any additional policing?
No. It's just to give them the opportunity to put items out
Right.
in front of their business, like down at King's Supermarket, they can put things out on the sidewalk. People on Main Street, they're allowed to do a sidewalk display. They normally wouldn't be able to do.
The only issue probably is that you need to coordinate it. In other words, every store probably, I guess the idea is to have them all go the same week, but personally, I think it seems that it should be flexible, and I don't know that any of us have any great insight as to what dates are better than the others as opposed to the store owner that wants to sell stuff.
Is there any, this looks like it was a 2002 ordinance. Was there any, do you recall why those dates were selected?
Not at all. I don't know unless John does.
Actually, I think we changed those dates because of Fall Festival year, because it conflicted with the Fall Festival year, so. I thought it had to do with the site plan approvals that were given to the property at some point.
So this is just like a standing permit
Right.
on the sidewalk sale.
Now, the only question is, if we had a vital business association, that would be a great thing for them to tell us what the climate of our merchants were and what they prefer, but unfortunately, that's not as vital as it could be.
The merchant that was concerned was invited to come tonight, wasn't able to do so.
I've gotten an email from him, so I know where it originates. But it's just the squeaky wheel. I don't know, if any or many other merchants in town have strong feelings one way or the other, but just seems odd that we're driving it from the top down, but I don't know if there's a way to get it from the bottom up. But I suppose if there's we can get a hold of him and see if he can circulate a letter, and if they want to change the dates, I would assume that we would probably be amenable to grant change. But it'd be nice to have some kind of consensus of at least a few merchants in town rather than just...
He didn't give me indication as to when they would like it to be.
Yeah.
He just said when they don't want it.
Okay.
And there might be emergencies that don't realize there's a, possible.
Well, the tough part is I don't think we know who else really cares or relies upon it and is looking at those dates maybe 6 months out and saying, well, we're going to do some specials that week because we know it exists. I don't know. But I'll reach out to the requester and see if he has a better solution. And if he can provide some data with some other merchants. Okay.
The only item, it's not on my report per se, but the chief has submitted his first compilation for our grant for reimbursement from providing security for the president. I know he's had a back and forth with the professionals that have been assigned to help us. Chief, you have any comment?
The FEMA process trying to recoup the money that we expelled from our overtime line item for the presidential protection details. Very cumbersome, but couple kinks. They have great people down there that'll assist you, answer the phone, emails throughout the weekend, and everything looks good. I was given, everything that was submitted is exactly what's required. Now we're just waiting.
Do we have any concerns, being that the end of this month is the end of the federal fiscal year? And should we get any more visits this month? Is there any, if he comes the last weekend of the month and we really can't submit the paperwork till October or November, does that pose a problem? Do we even know if that's an
The
issue?
grant will run with the federal fiscal cycle, so come September 30th of 17, it's over, you'll have a 30-day grace period, or 31, and all grant applications have to be submitted by October 31st.
Okay,
So
so
the
if he
way-
comes the last week of September, we've got till Halloween to get the paperwork in.
Correct. So there were two options. We could either submit it early for what we're out of pocket now and get in line, and then we'll have one opportunity to submit for any additional out of pocket for the last month.
All right. All right. All right, anything else?
That's all I got.
All right. Discussion on introduced ordinances, we don't have any. Introduction of ordinances, we don't have any. Don't have any public hearing on any ordinances tonight. We don't have anything on the consent agenda, but we do have 3 standalone resolutions, starting with Resolution 2017-088, authorizing authorizing participation in the Somerset County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. And there's I think there's is there a letter that goes along with this?
Yes, from the
Judy, do you want to explain?
In a nutshell, they are asking each of the towns in Somerset County to provide a copy of this resolution saying we will participate. We are to name 2 individuals that will represent Bedminster at their meetings, and then a task force made up of other people within the town that will, assist those 2 individuals when and if we have an issue here in Bedminster, similar to a Hurricane Sandy or flooding or some other issue. This also allows Somerset County to apply for grants based on the larger group, as opposed to doing it individually.
All right. And Mr. Grondike and Brienza?
Yes, as OEM coordinator and deputy coordinator, I put them on as the
Yep.
people who go to the meetings. They have been going to the meetings, and then the other individuals in town, yourself included, are part of that
Okay.
subgroup.
In the letter, it's the chief is the alternate, is it,
He
has
is.
that been changed?
No, he's still a deputy, but not the primary deputy.
Any other comments or questions? Take a motion.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution 2017-089, amending the notification policy for changes to the township's rateable base. So how are we going to change this?
So,
Change of date?
this resolution we did last year in preparation for the best practices checklist that we get from the state every year. The best practices checklist has usually about 25 items, practices or good things that the town should be doing. If we're able to say yes, we get a point. If we say no, we don't get a point. Towns with 21 or more points get to keep their aid 100%. Towns with less than 21 points may lose some of their state aid. Last year, we were not in jeopardy of going below 21 points. However, there was an easy addition to the points by having something in writing. Every year, the tax assessor does provide us with reports of properties that are going to tax appeal, assessments. He gives us quite a report at our budget meetings, provides all that in writing. The best practice checklist requested that that be in writing. So the best way to do that would be to put it in a resolution that he's required to do all those things that he does at our budget meetings. This year, they tweaked it a little bit and requested a few extra items from the assessor, so we're just adding those items under tax appeals on this resolution and to include them in the written plan so that we can keep that point.
Any other comments or questions? I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And finally, Resolution 2017-090, appointing a new DPW employee due to a resignation. John, you're going to have a whole new staff by January.
For the manager, but the gentleman did leave for better income, and can't blame him for that. And so we're replacing his position with somebody who's a local resident in Bridgewater Township. He was at Hillsborough for 11 years, has a Class A license, and should bring a lot to this department. Looking forward to it. Had about 15 to 20 applications.
Good.
Yeah. Interviewed about 5 or 6. There were a few good ones. He was top. With this candidate.
Any comments or questions? No, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
This will be a roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci? Aye. Mayor Parker?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The bill list. Let's approve the bill. Can I get a motion to approve the bill list pending the approval of individual invoices?
So moved.
Second.
Again, roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci? Aye. Mayor Parker?
Aye.
Thanks.
Do we have anything for the discussion items? Anything new? We'll move on to new business. Does anybody have any new business to bring forward? In which case, let's go to the old business, because we still have several things on that. 130 Hillside Avenue. Judy, anything new since our last meeting?
I sent an email out to the 3 contiguous property owners that expressed some interest. I hear back. They are trying to come up with their best ideas for the property. They're not ready yet.
Okay. Let me move down to LoSAP. Have we gotten any new data on LoSAP yet?
After the last meeting, Chief Lynch offered to come meet with me to go over some things since they do not participate in LoSAP. He offered to go over it, help me compare it, see if they're apples to apples or apples and oranges so that we can put together a report. Maybe we could have, it was Ms. Santucci and Mr. Olson that were the liaisons to emergency services. Maybe we could have a subcommittee rather than, drawing this out before the whole township committee get a meeting. We could maybe have a subcommittee meeting and kind of sort through it and come up with a recommendation.
Okay.
That's fine. Just let me know what works for you, and I'll be there.
Again, I would reach out to Tewksbury Township because they got 5. And they could sit there, and if we could, we should get a sampling from them. And they're our partners with Pottersville. Dog Park. Doug, do you have anything new with that?
Yes, Mayor. So just to reset the table, last meeting we talked about the fencing and the proposed plan for the dog park, and John had indicated that it was going to be a $15,000, maybe $20,000 expenditure. I know Stacy had a comment about that at the time, and I think the decision was made to sort of think about it some more and see if John could break it down into a better budget form, which I understand he's working on. Got two representatives who were very involved in the dog park discussion. We are sort of still in a holding pattern at this point. The next thing that really needs to happen is some sort of direction, official direction from the board as to what you want to bless or consider for getting the fencing up. And I don't think, I think that's pretty much what it will be. If we're up at around 15,000, maybe a couple dollars more, but I'm sort of in a holding pattern until the rest of you.
Well, can we just put something out as a proposal? Fence, chain link, cost X, fence, a plan A, a plan B, phases. There are 4 things we want or 3 things we want. Here are the costs for each of them. And we could sit down and say, we like this, we don't like that. Hey, let's do the fence this year, and then next year we'll do some benches and phase it, or maybe we can afford it all this year. But I think if we have a proposal with costs assessed, I think we can all sit here and say yes, no, or next year, or yeah, everything. And
I agree. What we need to do is drop it down to line item format, but if the cost is truly going to be around 15 or so for the fence, I just don't know what else. I mean, do you want a full soup to nuts menu of choices and that sort of?
What you said, at least, so we'll have something to look at and kind of share even with open space, because they had spoken about it as well. Just something to look at so that we're not just going, yeah, whatever, something just.
John, but for next meeting, you and I can get together and then we can have that done, right? All right, well, we can do that. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and then we've raised previously, and I have had offline discussions with some folks about the dog park users are very interested in seeing this this piece of land develop into what we hope it is, and they're willing to fundraise and they're willing to put their own dollar behind this. So one of the first events that they're sort of thinking about is Fall Fest, and what can we do, if anything, at Fall Fest to, whether it's sell shirts or what have you. And I think what we've worked out is that so long as it dovetails in with rec and it's an official rec event, that we can have something set up at Fall Fest. So I've talked to the folks that are sort of at the forefront of the dog park users and get them hooked up with the rec committee to go to the next meeting, which is this month, to see if they can make that happen. But there is a lot of enthusiasm, and it's good to see. They're very enthusiastic about it. They want to get this thing up and running. They want to see this park come to fruition. But I think we try to act while the getting's good, as they say. Well, they're willing to do that, and I want to further the initiative. But I guess we got to break it down to dollars and cents.
John, how much lead time do you need for a fence? In other words, if we had a couple proposals next meeting and we liked one of them, how soon after that is it possible to have a fence in?
The Morris County Co-op vendor that has the bid right now, I tried to contact today and did not get a hold of them. So as soon as I get them up here to give me an estimate, I can kind of get a lead time of what it's going to take for them to install. And then we can get a better hard number on what that is. Where we are with the project, just so everybody's aware, I don't think it matters, but we did clear out the underbrush in the area. There is a couple of trees that need to be trimmed up considerably. There's a leaning tree that's actually from a previous storm that leaned in a good tree. So I had a tree tech coming to give me an estimate of today. We met walk through the property. He's supposed to give me an estimate. Hopefully we can get that done. When we get that cleaned up, when we get the ground cleaned up, and we should be on our way. As far as benches, I did find 2 benches we have laying at the shop that we can put in. Just so when they're ready to go, we need help. And it's just really easy fencing. I think if we get the fencing in, I think we're pretty well set. There's not a concern about dogs digging underneath the fencing. We don't worry about putting some kind of mat or any kind of additional fencing under there. We just have to, worry about what the maintenance is going to be in the area. That's where we are.
By the way, John, one question that did come back is the height fence. Did you have it?
4 feet. I mean, it all is increments of feet. So you can go 4, you can 5, and 6. I was thinking 4. The snow fence that's down there is like 4 anyway, 3.5 or 4. So I don't know what anybody is really looking for.
Higher would be better. A couple of dogs were very agile.
So 5, 6.
You get an estimate, you're not going to be that much more. Yeah.
I know if you had like Ken Olson's dogs, you might need something. Of course, you have horses in town smaller than Ken's dogs, but Ken has Danes, big, large Great Danes.
We don't want to put, too high of a fence. It's going to look.
You don't want it to look like a prison either. You want it to be aesthetically pleasing, so. And I think it would be great for a fest, but I would hate to put something in hastily just to do it for an arbitrary date. I'd rather get something that's over the long term better.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. What I meant about Fall Fest is the dog park users, the humans, want to sit at a booth at Fall Fest and promote it and get it out there and start drumming up the funds. But the point is that we've got to have a mechanism in place that the township's able to take in that money and put it into an account dedicated to the particular use. So, rec committee meeting coming up. Hopefully we can dovetail that. Whether we create a subcommittee under rec that's Friends of the Dog Parks, or whether an existing rec member takes it and runs with it and is a liaison to the public, similar to
Well,
what
we
I've been doing.
already have the capability to take donations for park benches. It would seem that it would be a similar.
The issue is, at Fall Fest, I can have a booth, I have a township booth or a couple township booths that are covered under township insurance and our umbrella. Any nonprofit coming to Fall Fest has to provide their own insurance, their own tent, their own tables, their own everything. So unless this group is under our umbrella, working with our own volunteers, it's hard for me to provide that. So that's what I'm just trying to work towards.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see what's possible.
John, one question. Is there a master plan that was prepared for River Road Park, which included other amenities out there that were not necessarily dog park related? Does this jive with that master plan?
So, approximately right where the dog park is now, there was a pavilion, actually a pavilion / restroom facilities that was designed for that area. The dog park itself was actually in behind where the old dog park was, from the JDH house, which was, further in the back. But then you lead to the area of being wet, whatever. So it really doesn't impact that at all at this point in time. I think that whatever we're doing is well within the confines of the master plan we have.
Okay. Thank you.
Last thing we have on here is the Lamington River Restoration Project, and Mr. Hickey came in with a big stack of papers. So I'll ask you to
Thank you, Mayor. I want to think about the framework for what has been proposed. I think what we saw last time was more information around the objective of the project itself. We had obviously expert testimony from RHA and NRCS, and I think we all somewhat agree that the objective itself to create a better aquatic environment is valuable. I start to then break down the problem and think about, okay, we need really to get into the details of the plan itself in terms of how that objective is reached. And Mr. Lewis stopped over right before the meeting and dropped off this plan, which I have yet to review, as well as 77 meg of detailed information on the plan. I think that's important because we have to understand the site plan, the timeline, anything they're submitting to NRCS, the DEP, et cetera. I think another part that we need to understand better are any consequences, the risks basically associated with the plan, and what is going to be done to mitigate any of those risks, and we haven't seen that yet, quite frankly. It could be flooding, it could be fuel and oil spills, it could be other unintended consequences. And I think the fourth part of the thing we need to see are inputs from our residents, and I know Mr. Bell was here last time speaking about it. I spoke with Mayor Lloyd on the phone about a week or so ago. I think that feedback loop needs to be continuous, because I think we need to constantly be apprised of what the landowners are feeling about this project and the residents. I know this body's been very deliberative and careful and has very carefully considered the request of Flint Hill Group. We previously discussed restricting access for the site for the grant application. I think we may want to consider combining that with some type of continuous oversight, and perhaps it's not only just the TC, but maybe, Larry, goes back to the EC as a body that they need to report into, let's say, every other month, and apprise the status and what they're doing. I think that would also be a forum where the public could continue to comment, attend the meetings. We could do gate reviews, because I think we need, just like any other project we manage, have milestones, gate reviews, checkpoints, and then at the end, is there an opportunity, and I would have to ask Mr. Bellardo this, do we have an emergency switch or a cutoff in case there's something we don't like or something needs to be addressed immediately? Can we hit that cutoff switch and stop all work until that issue is remediated? Mr. Lewis, again, reminded me tonight that they want to work with the township very closely in lockstep. We'll give them the opportunity to do that through, I think, this oversight, and continue to have at it and figure out what exactly they're doing. That's my latest input on what's going on with the project.
And John, you were going to review some documents last time we...
I did, Mayor, and I sent out my email regarding the review of the appendix, I think maybe a couple days after, and indicated that the appendix requires that the participant enter into a contract with the landowner, so any preliminary resolution of support certainly could be conditioned upon a final contract between Bedminster and whatever groups are going to do the work. And as the gentleman from NRCS indicated last time, there's no design yet, so we haven't seen that. So that would all be part of the process if the committee decided to go ahead.
All right. And I think we still have an idea how many have signed and how many have not, other than, of course, they're looking for us to sign on.
They're looking for a resolution of preliminary consent.
Would ask for a list of those who have signed on. I don't know if we have that.
We have
Might be in the.
We have a preliminary list, but I'll make sure we have the most up-to-date list and send it out.
Well, I hope we can digest through that thing between now and the next meeting and provide some resolution. I don't want to keep kicking the can down the road, but I'm glad we're starting to see a little more detail.
Exactly.
Because the detail and the oversight's important.
So just on a schedule, at what point, it sounded like both Flint Hill Group and NRCS was looking to get something from the township. Maybe for the next meeting, we could actually put together what that resolution would look like, and then make the decision whether to move on that resolution at the next meeting. Subject to all the conditions that the folks from NRCS had mentioned and that Mr. Bordo had confirmed. So that we are giving preliminary consent, but that is subject to and can be withdrawn for any reason that the Township Committee decides in the future. So something we'll...
And perhaps, Ms. Sullivan, you could ask them if they're looking for an approval to send what they're officially looking to have approved, so we have that in front of us when we begin to prepare a resolution.
I think that approval is the signatory on that application.
Yeah, I would, whatever to the final step before we do the resolution, so they don't show up. Whatever they want to prove, they send to you again, say, this is it, this is what we want to prove pursuant to the resolution. Whether it's one document or two or three, let's make sure we have that well in advance so that the resolution would indicate precisely the approvals conditionally granted.
Okay.
Well, could we also put in the notes some of the things that Colin said, have in the resolution, bi-monthly meetings, is it bi-semi? Bi-monthly meetings every other month,
Every other month.
and some of those things, so we have something concrete so that we,
If Mr. Hickey, you would email me those conditions, I'd be happy to
Happy to do
include
that.
them in the resolution.
Will do.
I see folks have wandered in that had some interest in it the last time. Are there any members of the public wish to come up and comment on the river project or have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Bob Lloyd. This proposal is to do what improvement would come about by doing this. And so far, it sounds awful sketchy. It doesn't sound like you folks have the material to work with to really come to a definite conclusion. Is that a fair analysis?
It's a chicken and an egg issue. They would like to get a grant to do the river improvement project, which includes design. So, and they can't design it until they get the money. They can't get the money until they get the permission. We don't want to give them permission until we know what the plan is, but they can't come up with a plan until they get the money and come up with a plan. So it's turned into a bit of an Abbott and Costello routine here. However, we have made significant efforts to try to get as much detail as possible, and we're hoping that that large volume of paper and that big heavy memory stick that Mr. Hickey has will unfold a little bit more of that. A thumbnail conceptual idea is the idea that, and this has been done over with the river, I believe, that flows into Mirror Lake, Ravine Lake?
Ravine Lake.
Ravine Lake, excuse me, over behind Far Hills and Peapack Gladstone. And there was a contractor that comes in, and he's a specialist, and I think he's from out west. And the theory is he makes the river from wide to narrow and puts in large boulders that will make deeper pools, hopefully to drop the temperature of the water, improve the water quality, make it more hospitable to fish. And, you know, the river could still expand in flooding situations, although that's part of the design that we don't know about. And the theory is that that provides a better quality of water, better for stocking the fish, better for drinking, better for long-term sustainability. Raritan Headwaters was here last meeting and testified to just that, and they were supporters of it. But again, we've got some neighbors along the route that have some concerns. They've got to get signatures from all the property owners along that river side, of which we are the largest, which is why they're coming here. Mr. Hall was very eloquent last meeting, asking for oversight and transparency, and I think that's exactly what Mr. Hickey, formerly with the EC and now on the Township Committee, is trying to win through. So that's kind of the thumbnail.
Okay. The reason you brought this to my attention, that this is taking place, and since then I've had 8 different families in the area wind up either at my home or my office. One thing you'll learn is that after you're out of being mayor, for some reason you're going to have a lot of knowledge. And guess what? You're talking to me, and I said, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Which I did at the time until you and I had a conversation. The concern is flooding. One. The concept that I'm hearing, and I heard from Paul Bell, that supposedly this is going to improve the quality of the water, therefore it will be a better trout-breeding waterway. At this point in time, per Division of Fish and Game, that run of water is at the highest level of trout breeding. It's considered the best that it can be. So, by doing this project, how much is going to be improved? That's the question. I'd like to know what that answer might be. When they know what the quality of the water is now, as opposed to what they propose to do, what would it bring it up to, if at all? And just throwing questions at you, which I'm sure all you folks would like answers to also. But they're not there. The people who live along the river are concerned about anybody being approved to go in and renegotiate how that river's gonna flow. I being one. It was on what's referred to as the island for 57 years. We've had floods, we've had good fishing. The primary floods that we have had are the most meaningful floods when ice got loose and jammed up against the river or some other area and just attacked up and that created flooding itself. Normal flooding in the area that I'm referring to, right smack in the middle of Pottsville, the overflow is not ever particularly deep. With all the storms that I'm listening to today, I can't even sing that.
Yes. We've had a lot of 1,000-year or 100-year storms lately.
Yeah, that's a lovely thing, isn't it? The more information that can come to the public, particularly those that are in maybe harm's way, one of us, better off, I think, we as a community are going to do. And I look forward to that coming forward. I appreciate your time.
Well, stay tuned, Mayor. Those are great questions. Those are things we should be asking about.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, let's move on, and which brings us next to the second and final session of public comment. So if there's any member of the public that hasn't commented yet, that wishes to be heard, this is the last time to come up to that microphone and be heard. All right, seeing none, we'll move to Township Committee comments. Start with Mr. Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no comment.
Okay, Mr. Hickey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, no comments.
All right. Jacobs?
No comments, Mayor.
Ms. Santucci?
Can't comment, Mayor.
I was going to ask one thing, and I hesitate, but I'll do it anyway. I saw some folks over on the hike and bike path with construction equipment. Do we have an update on the hike and bike path, or was that something different?
What you saw was the state in their tree program.
Oh, I thought they were pavers.
What they're doing today is they're putting stakes around and fencing around all their trees that they planted, I guess, a year over there. So
Okay,
that's
never
what
mind.
was on here. Last week, we did go down and trim the new hike and bike trail a little bit,
Mhm.
so we kind of prepare a little bit more for the next phase.
Do we have an idea when next phase is?
Well, I can give a little update on that. So, you know, as you guys know, that we went out to bid twice on the approved project, and both times came back without any interested participants. And doing a little research, John found out that reason is because of the pervious paving that's built into the project approval from New Jersey DEP. So I have reached out to DEP and asked for a waiver of the pervious pavement requirement, and spoke to some folks in the DEP administration, and they gave some guidance on a resubmission of the application based upon the premise that we've gone out to bid twice, had no interested vendors who would provide pervious pavement. And there's some complications about the project. One is it's a mile-long linear project, 10 feet wide. It's just not particularly accessible. You can't come in with one giant load of pervious pavement and pave the entire swath. Just can't be done. So it'd be probably a several-week process to bring in a load of pervious pavement, and next day another load, next day another load. And the way pervious pavement is manufactured, it's done on a batch basis, and essentially the paving plant has to shut down and make a special batch, because it is a very different batch than what you use for streets or paving for parking lots or other normal pavement uses. So no paving contractor is going to shut down their plant to make one truckload or 2 truckloads a day for several weeks. So we've requested a hardship from the Church of draft application of the impervious pavement requirements, and I've worked with Paul Ferraro to put together the new application to go down requesting the modification of the permit to go from impervious pavement to regular pavement. And there's, other than just the hardship of us not finding a vendor, there are some practical consequences that will have no environmental impact to the area where the hiking bike is running through. And Paul has finished that application, and in your packet is the modification fee to be approved. So if Stacy signs off on that, the check will be drafted tomorrow,
It will go out in the mail tomorrow.
and then Paul will deliver it to DEP, and I will give the folks in the DEP administration a heads up that the application is coming through. And I had already said, you know, got some projects coming up in October. Really be nice if we could get this approved so that we can start moving forward on the paving for the hike and bike. And I was told that if it all works out nicely and Paul was did a good job in the application, we could see an approval end of September, October. And then John is ready to go. Since we'll be using regular pavement, he can just go under the Morris County Co-op and will not have to go out to bid. So, not sure if that answers your question,
Nope,
but maybe October, maybe early November, while they're making pavement.
If the weather,
Okay.
all right. Well, that's hopefully good. Keep our fingers crossed. We have an executive session tonight. I do not believe that there is anything coming out of executive session to be voted upon. So, can I get a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll see you in the back in a few minutes. Your microphone's back on. And at 9:36, we're out of executive session. We have no further business. Can I get a motion to close? To adjourn, rather?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night.
Yeah.